Great take here from Rosa.
Stuttering start, but they're ending the season with momentum. Manchester City, Continental Cup winners 2022.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of MCW Fancast. I'm Emma, thanks for listening. This week I'm pleased to be joined by Dave, Paul and Charlotte as we recap on our recent derby defeat at Leigh Sports Village. United ran out victors, securing their first win against City in the Women's Super League, now taking their title chances to the final day of the season this coming Saturday. City return to the Academy Stadium for their final game of the season against visitors Everton, and they'll be looking to improve on recent results and finish the campaign with a win at home. Let's get straight into it. We're joined by Paul, Dave and Charlotte. We're going to do this week's podcast. Obviously plenty to talk about following the defeat at the Manchester derby. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
Dave, you okay?
Hi Emma, yeah, fine, thanks.
And it's great to have Charlotte back on the podcast as well. How are you doing, Charlotte?
Yeah, good. Excited to be on.
We'll just get straight into it then. Charlotte, we'll start with you. How were you feeling heading into, obviously, Sunday's game? I saw you at the match. I was feeling relatively calm, but a little bit apprehensive. What about yourself?
Yeah, I was excited for the derby. I knew as fans we'd be outnumbered with the clash of the men's game. But yeah, I was really excited and hopeful. We'd had 10 days to turn it around from Liverpool, and I felt like we really could have, I still felt like we could have got something from the game. And yeah, nothing but proud of the girls of the game on Sunday.
Yeah, Paul, you were there as well. What did you feel heading into the game? What were your feelings?
Well, after the Liverpool game, I was slightly apprehensive. But as we said in the last podcast, I think we were pretty clear there was going to be a response. And we certainly got a response from the team. You know, a shaky start. But once they got over that, you know, they'd worked their way back in the game. And then there was obviously the sending off of Ellie Roebuck, which is unusual, very unusual to see a keeper go. And in the second half, I mean, what a heroic effort by the 10 players that were left, including Kiara Keating in goal, who I thought was sensational. So, you know, I was apprehensive, but they smashed all my apprehensions, and really, we could have got at least a draw out of that game and possibly even won it.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, watching the game itself, obviously the first half in particular, we weren't at our best at all, and you could probably say that United did start the game better.
Yeah, they started strong and obviously scored a goal. If you look at United this season, they've done that a lot at LSP. I think they've blown teams away in the first half. So I think the priority for City, once that goal went in after 2 or 3 minutes, was to not let that happen, which they did. You know, stay in the game, which they did. You know, and obviously, but then obviously Ellie getting sent off throws any plans into chaos. And echo what Paul said, I thought Kiara was excellent in goal. And the second half, you know, we were the better side and we could have won the game. That's the bottom line. We could have actually won it, never mind the draw, chances that were created. So the performance was certainly a massive improvement on the Liverpool performance.
Obviously, after that early goal as well, and then with Ellie getting sending off, I was kind of feeling, oh, this is just going to go from bad to worse. But actually, you know, we got into the tunnel. We managed to just calm ourselves a little bit, and we came out and we were a completely different side again.
Second half, yeah, we sort of went on the front foot. I think they thought, well, they've got nothing to lose now. They obviously had a chat in the dressing room at half-time plan and came out and really went on the front foot. And although that did mean, obviously, United having the extra player gave them chances as well on the break, I thought City dominated for large periods of the second half and pushed them back. I thought the wingers and got their defenders pretty well and created chances, made United defend on the back foot. Obviously, it did mean that we tired towards the end of the game. We did tire because it meant those players left putting in such a shift. And you could see the tiredness in the legs and what have you of some of the players as the game, you know, drawn out. And ultimately, that probably cost us the goal late on. But we were a little bit unlucky, I thought, on the day to not at least get a point.
Especially looking at the second half, Charlotte, with the opportunities that City did have on goal. I mean, throughout the game, there were a couple of occasions where we hit the bar, but it was an absolute magnificent goal by Angledahl. I mean, the ability to finish that goal and to score the way she did. How pleased were you at that point?
Oh, when that goal went in, I just couldn't believe it. Like, we all just went mental. Someone dropped the drink behind us. It was just like scenes like I couldn't. Philippa has just been like that player that's come, she's been on the bench a lot the previous seasons. This season, Gareth gave her a chance, and her 2 goals this season against Chelsea and against United have just been amazing. I mean, she took a chance earlier on in that second half and went right over, but take your chance. I think when Laura Coombs signed her contract, Gareth said to her, take your chances. I want to see you shoot, have your chances on goal. And she went for it. I mean, it was a cross, but wow, like, this is why we signed her. And I really do hope she stays next season and shows us what she can give to the game, and why she should be on that pitch. Really, really exciting player. When that goal went in, oh, couldn't believe it. I was so happy.
It was special. And Paul, players like Angledal, like you said, that have been in and out of the team on the fringes of getting those sort of starts, but that towards the end of the season, she's really shown her worth, and those are the sort of players that you're hoping will probably reflect on that and hopefully see that they have got some sort of future within the club and within this team. You'd like to see them commit. I know I would personally like to see Angledal sign a new deal.
Absolutely, and I think there's a few players around the squad that you might think of. Hayley Russell's another one that comes to mind that would walk into virtually any of the WSL side, and yet she's been used as an impact player. So I think Gareth's got some work, and the new director of football has got some work to persuade those players to stay, and sort of show them that we're working on like the men's team, a squad rotation, and you will get plenty of game time. The slight problem we've got, because we're not in Europe the next season, the game time will be a little bit more limited because they won't be able to rotate into the European games. So he's going to have to show Angledal and Masso and others that are sort of coming in and out of the team. Mary Fowler's another one that's world class young player, but can't even get in the starting 11. So they're going to have to persuade those players that there's game time available. But just on the second half performance, that was a classic 10-player performance. You see it time and time again when a team goes down to 10, something happens and they just seem to play out the skins. They suddenly get that burst of energy and that determination not to be turned over, and that's what we saw at the weekend. And it was magnificent to watch the 10 of them go at it, and as Dave says, really give it to United. United were reduced at some points just to pumping the ball down the middle and hoping somebody get on the end of it. You would think playing 11 against 10, you'd be a bit more considered, but I think we rattled them. And it was very unlucky that late goal. And as Dave says, I think they just so tired that a bit of concentration went. But what a performance! We should be so proud of them as a collective. Because it would have been easy to sort of collapse at that point and get hammered 5-0. But actually, as Dave rightly says, it could have gone either way at the end.
The goal obviously come late, and I think we spoke about in the last podcast how United have managed to find ways of digging deep and finding ways to win or get something out of the game at least, and that has been a little bit of a struggle for us this season. But looking on the performance from the weekend and the fight, and I know we talk about fight to the end, but genuinely that is exactly what happened. The team fought really hard and wanted to get something out of the game, and you could see by the way obviously the goal just devastated the squad in the reaction by the team.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch their reaction afterward, literally collapsing to the pitch. They were devastated because they'd put that shift in, and let's be honest, from where we were sat, the cross from for the goal looked offside, way offside. It wasn't even close from where we were sitting. So I think there's a combination of we've got done by a dodgy decision, and we've just let a bit of concentration go because we've been working so hard. So they were devastated. I think the fans were devastated as well, because we could see how much effort they'd put in to try to even not just hold on, but to win the game, because they were the better team in the second half, I think. So yeah, it was really sad to watch. But again, there's a lot of pride in that, and as you say, Emma, United this season have found a way to win. We've got to take a lesson from that and do two things: find that way to win, and more importantly, and if there's a criticism of the team this season, it's we don't take our chances enough. We create loads of chances but don't always convert them. We've got to be better at that next season.
Yeah. And Dave, obviously there were some crap. I'm just gonna put it out there. Decisions again. This game. I mean, obviously we're heading into obviously the back of already, the Liverpool game where we've kind of felt hard done by poor decisions. Yeah, again, just poor refereeing again. What is it at the moment with
Right
this
across,
the state
right
of
across the
these
board,
officials?
as you say, right across the board in WSL, I think the officiating needs to improve. Full stop. I think every fan would agree with that, because every game, you like you said on the last podcast, the Liverpool game, we came away from it baffled. There was one point where the players were telling them the rules about drop balls and things like that. But on Sunday, I did think that the referee got quite big decisions wrong at times. I mean, the Buddy Shaw penalty incident. If you watch it back on the TV at night, I mean, it's a clear-cut penalty, which we thought it was at the time as well. And I just can't understand why that wasn't given. So Bunny nicks the ball, much like Nikita nicked the ball just ahead of Ellie and, created that foul because she just managed to nick the ball. Well, Bunny did the same. If you look at she just got a foot to the ball in front of, I think it was Ladd, wasn't it? And Ladd kicked Bunny, and it was a penalty. Anywhere else on the pitch, that's given as a free kick. So that one baffled me. But overall, I think the officiating was poor, but it's something that seems to be in every game. I was glad to see on the TV at night that Gareth called out that referee. He actually said he mentioned last season's, the Chelsea home and away on the thing as well. So I think that's the thing. The whole refereeing system needs to improve across the WSL because it's costing teams points. It's cost us points without a doubt this season. Poor refereeing, and it needs to improve.
I mean, as a neutral fan listening to this podcast, I probably think, oh, you're just saying it because you lost the game and this, that, and the other. But it's clear fact that the standards need to improve, Charlotte.
Yeah, you said in your last episode about how the women's game was a guinea pig for the Women's World Cup. We had VAR, and you mentioned as well about how easy would it be to have goal line technology, like simple things like that would really help. And full-time referees, it needs to happen. This game's on Sky Sports, like people are watching that, and it's not a good look for the women's game to see that happen, and then going into the Women's World Cup, what referees are we going to have there? Like, they're not prepared for this World Cup. And yeah, it's just embarrassing that this game was on Sky Sports to have decisions like that by referees when the whole world is watching. But yeah, because when we went down to 10 players, I wasn't nervous. Like, I was sad about it, but I wasn't nervous. We've been there before, and we've done it before. Yeah. And yeah, if it happened again, I really won't be nervous because professionals in that team, Steph Horton, they have really rallied around and came through that game and supported Chiara coming on like that. After a sad.
I mean, like you said, Chiara coming on. She's probably not even thinking, oh, I'm gonna get any playing time in this game, let alone it be any other game but a derby. You know what I mean? Like, there's an expectation, isn't there, on players to come out and to give everything when you're playing in a derby, and she really rose to that occasion as well. And hopefully, I mean, it's a performance for me that was outstanding. I think she has some really big moments in the game. She made some really good decisions. She looked confident. She distributed the ball really well, and that'll do her confidence a world of good as well.
It does raise a lot of questions about our goalkeeping situation at the moment, because Ellie's been seen as the number one for a long time, but there's quite a lot of fans who think Sandy McIver deserves an opportunity. And she's got great distribution as well, McIver, and Keating has shown there's probably the best young keeper in WSL at the moment. I mean, she came on in that high pressure situation and didn't panic. She just got on with it. She did it all the basics right. She pulled off the saves that she needed to do. Her distribution was excellent. So I think it raises some questions about what who's going to be our number one next season. And I'm not just saying that because of this weekend. I think this is something I've been thinking about for some time. It's fantastic, actually, that we've got 3 really, really good keepers. I mean, that every other club in the country must be envious of that. We've got 2 of the England starting 3 for goalkeepers and the best young, I think, under 20 goalkeeper in the country. So I think that's a really positive place to be. So Gareth's going to have to make some decisions next season about who he starts, because I think that's a position that's now wide open for somebody to take that opportunity.
It's been quite, I mean, even probably Ellie will probably tell you that she's had a really difficult season, obviously coming off of the back of the Euros, and I mean, somebody give her old shirt back for starters, because I feel like that number 1 jersey's cursed now. But it's been really, really difficult for her, and she's had some really unfortunate moments. But again, it's that split decision making, Dave, where she's obviously committed to winning that ball, and it's just not worked out for her.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the actual instant where she got sent off. It's you once you make that decision to go out, you've got to get it. And Nikki Paris does nick the ball just ahead of her, so she catches her. I've seen debates about it, and I've looked at it many times myself. I mean, she's not going in on goal, and maybe Wahhabi would have got back, and possibly could have been a yellow. But if it had been a yellow, then you'd have all United fans having the debates we're having now about whether it was a red or not. So, if you come out to those, you've got to get the ball, and she didn't. It's just one of those things.
To be honest, as soon as I saw her coming for it, I just thought, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
Well, this is it.
Moment, and it's one of those. And Sandy and Ellie are 2 different goalkeepers. With Ellie, we play out from the back. With Sandy, who's got really good distribution, and she can play those sort of long balls, and they're very, very different goalkeepers.
Well, it's a huge part of the game now for a goalkeeper. It's a huge part of the game to be able to play out and read those situations. It's much like the fullback role has changed in modern football. So much to how it was. Goalkeepers' roles has changed. It's not just about saving the shots anymore. It's about your distribution. It's about setting off attacks and things. And as part of the modern era, that's what goalkeepers need to be aware of. And let's look at the positives. I mean, you're all right, because we all said how well Chiara's played. It's not the first time she's come into the team and played well. I remember a game against Arsenal last season when she was playing, and we were, I think she was only 17, and she plays with a maturity of over years, without a shadow of a doubt, for someone so young. Because if you're a goalkeeper, you've got to be dominant in that area. You're in charge. You're the goalie, and for some young players that might be hard when you've got such experience in front of you as well, like Steph and Alex and people like that. But she seems to cope with that side of the game so well for such a young player. And if we're looking for positives from Sunday, then we start with Chiara, because she was excellent. She really was. It was a great performance, and it'll stand her in good stead going forward. Then, as Charlotte said, the experienced players like Steph and Alex and everything, their performances were also positive. So, it's difficult as a goalkeeper, because one mistake and it either leads to a red card or a goal, where some of the players can make a number of mistakes in the game and get away with it. So it's a very it's a position that's very much in the spotlight, and I do feel for them.
It's one of those, isn't it, that sticks with you. But for me, I know that Ellie will probably want this season done and dusted, but I know for sure she'll come back stronger next season. She'll be committed to making improvements and putting things right. But just on Chiara, towards the end of the game, she was going up. When we were still really searching even to find an equalizer, even after the late goal, she was, committed in pushing the team forward as well, which I really like to see, Charlotte.
Yeah, it was a really great game from her, and good performance in front of Serena as well, who was watching. Really proud of her to come on and do that performance. I know we're going to talk about this week's game, but I'm like, who's going to be the sub keeper for this week? I'm not sure the development team are they ready as a sub goalie? God forbid we need one. But great performance from Chiara in front of Serena. And she must be on a radar as well already, but we have definitely one for the future of England, I think, as well.
It's an interesting point, actually, because we've not got Stanway, let's be honest. So who would you, let's just, for a laugh, who do you think would be up for the challenge, Paul?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of players that come to mind. I mean, Alex Green would probably have a go. She's always getting. There was a lovely little moment actually in the game towards the end when I think Bunny Shaw had been, when she got clattered for the disputed penalty and she was lying injured, and Alex Greenwood just came over and was chatting to her and encouraging her. And I just thought that's exactly the sort of team spirit we've seen this season. And one of the best defenders in the world talking to one of the best young keepers. potentially in the world, saying, you're doing a good job, and just encouraging her. And that was just a really beautiful thing to see. A really experienced player, doing the business with a younger player and saying, keep at it, you're doing all the right things. So, and I think, physicality wise, you'd put Bunny Shaw in as well, because she's got the size and the strength to be, potentially a great keeper. But yeah, I mean, I personally, I think, we're probably going to have the development keeper in and hope that Kiara don't get sent off. But when, as Dave rightly says, you've got to remember Kiara's debut was when we had that massive injury crisis last season, and she played against Arsenal, who were on fire at that time, and we only lost to that brilliant late Tobin Heath goal. And Kiara played really well that night as well. So, there's massive potential there. But just going back to your point about Ellie, Ellie's a really, really, really good goalkeeper, and she will use the close season to think about, what she needs to do. She will do that. And we're going to have a massive battle for the number 1 spot next season, because we've got 3 really, really good keepers, and Ellie will be back. Of that, I am sure.
And as a club, obviously, Dave, we're quite fortunate that we have got so many options, apart from this weekend.
Yeah. Well, all three. I mean, I still think that Ellie and Sandy will go to the World Cup. I still think that that they'll be in the 3 goalkeepers that go. Kiara is obviously already an international at the youth levels, and had some good reviews there. So yeah, it's a fantastic position to be in, because we've got 3 great goalkeepers without a doubt. This season, when they get back from the World Cup, obviously it looks, barring a miracle, we're not in Europe next season. So we're going to have a pre-season, which is something that we didn't have this year. And, they could come back and work on things, and the rest of the team can all work together. And hopefully we can see a solid start to next season, because they'll have had a run at it. And that's the positives to take out of situations, I think.
Let's look ahead then to Saturday, obviously the last day of the season, final home game at the Academy Stadium against Everton. I mean, Charlotte, you actually went to watch Everton this weekend. What did you make of their performance?
Yeah, I would say they're on good form. I know they lost 4-1 to Arsenal, and Aggie Beaver-Jones has got a red card, so won't be available for this game. But the last half, they had 10 players and kept Arsenal to 4-0 and then scored a goal. Their Dutch player, Catty, I'm not sure how you say her name properly, but she's a real threat that we need to keep an eye on. And then Hannah Bedderson's had a quiet season for them, and then came on and scored a wonder goal, last minute goal against Brighton. So they are in good form. But I think the girls, really got a last push for this last game. We want to keep this clean sheet at the academy. We've not lost any games this season at home. So yeah, I'm excited for the game. It's going to be a very exciting last game of the season. Everton have got a really good fan base as well, so yeah, it should be a really good game for the last game of the season.
Yeah, and Everton currently sitting in 6th, just behind Villa, and they've played well, Everton, but they've been fairly inconsistent in results. But for City, I mean, in terms of trying to finish the season on a high, we should be looking to get a win at home.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're even, that we're having this discussion about whether we might beat Everton shows how the standard of the WSL over the last couple of seasons has really shot up. There's no easy games anymore. In the past, we might have fancied ourselves really just to beat Everton. That's not the case now. They're a good team. They've got some really good players, but as you rightly say, they've been all over the place with results. One week they look brilliant, the next week they look a bit dodgy. They look like they might be struggling a bit. So it's a classic. Depends which Everton turn up. If good Everton turn up, it'll be a great game anyway. If bad Everton turn up, then we should win that game relatively easily. I suspect good Everton is going to turn up. We're going to have a great game, a great atmosphere, a great way to end the season, and I think we'll edge it just. But it won't be easy, because they have got some quality players in that team. I think they've underperformed slightly, but 6 isn't bad. They would have took that at the start of the season. Villa have been a really, really good 5th. We're going into next season with potentially a top 5, with Villa joining the sort of so-called Big 4. Everton won't be a million miles away. Liverpool have done well this season, coming up from the Championship. So no easy games anymore in our league, and I think it's going to be a cracking game. That the City will just edge maybe 2-1, 3-1.
Yeah. And obviously, there's a lot to be decided still with regards to the league on Saturday. Obviously, all to play for the title, all to play for relegation at the bottom as well. But for City, I suppose we could just go out, Dave, and enjoy this one.
Well, it's like Charlotte says, we've got a really good home record this season. We want to keep that. We've beat Chelsea, we've beat Arsenal. We've been really good at home. We've got a great record, so let's keep that. See out with a win. Send everyone off for the summer with a win, and a win in the sunshine would be fantastic. It's been fine margins this season. I don't think we're far off, where we want to be. You look at the big games. Like I say, we beat Chelsea, we beat Arsenal, we drew United. We lost to all three of those games away from home. All three of those teams. If you turn those around, we've been in those games. I think we should have got something on Sunday. I think we should have got something at Arsenal when we lost 2-1. It was unfortunate that day. So it's fine margins with this team. They're not that far off at all, in my opinion. So let's see it out with a win on Saturday. I was going to say Sunday then. On Saturday.
I'm not used to it either. I had to think twice.
Yeah, and finish the season, on a high. Give everyone a smile, and hopefully for a good game. Yeah, I know the Everton lot are coming over as well, so we're going to have a good, good bit of banter, and it'll be a nice day and a decent crowd, I would have thought.
At the end of the day, it's 2 defeats on the bounce, and City will be disappointed with that, but they are professional enough to come back from it and, not even think about it and just want to go out and get the job done, Charlotte.
Yeah, 100%. These are professional players. I know I'm going to talk about the United game and United fans saying that the players reacted to the fans, but I think it's more the referees aren't professional. The referees aren't used to this fan base and all these big crowds. I think that's an impact on the game, not the players. But yeah, definitely we're going to have a good week training and be ready for Saturday for the last game of the season.
I think we've also got to bear in mind that for me, this is a transitional season. In the same way United had a transitional season last season, where they played really well for the first 2/3 of last season and then fell away really badly because they weren't quite there. For us, we've lost 6 world-class players in a season, 2 retired and 4 left. We've brought in a load of new players and we've had to bed them in. So for me, this has been our transitional season. We now need to kick on with the new director of football, bring in some new players and potentially getting rid of some players just to freshen the squad up. So for a transitional season, as Dave rightly says, we've been there or thereabouts for the whole season. Next season, we would expect to be top 3 at least and potentially winning a cup or getting to a final. That's what we should expect from moving from a transitional season to a season where Gareth can have his New Year's contract and mold the team in the way that he wants to. So I think whilst looking at it, you might say we might have gone backwards in some ways. Actually, if you look back to that Villa game when we looked like 11 strangers had been wandered onto the pitch in the City shirt to where we are now, I think that's significant progress and a lot to build on for next season.
And we've had some questions in from fans, so we're going to go through those. Obviously, quite varied, because after the back of obviously defeat comes some negativity around the club, which we have to sort of talk about as well. So we're going to go into that. Alexis Monteith has sent a few questions in on Facebook. So the first one being, how do we look to motivate some of the best female players in the world, many playing for their countries and representing their countries internationally in an upcoming season without European football? In other words, how do we define our targets for next season to keep those players at the club? Paul, what do you think?
I think it is going to be slightly tricky if we're not in Europe, which is very likely, and it's almost certain, isn't it? But it's slightly different, I think, in the WSL. I think, it's harder for the big clubs in the men's game if you're not in the Champions League to bring those players in. I think it's slightly different at this stage for the women's game. So I don't think it's that much of an issue. I think we've got a director of football who's going to say, look, you're going to come to a club with great values, great ethos, the best facilities in the world for the women's game, you're treated the same as the men. You get the same treatment, the same facilities. When you listen to what players are saying, they often talk about the way they're treated, the facilities at the club. That's a massive selling point. You're not practicing on some, rec pitch somewhere. You practice on quality pitches. You get quality physio, quality support all the way through. So I think we can sell the club to the top quality international players, and we've done that this season. So, we've already got some really good international players in. I'm not fearful. I think we are a very good proposition for women who want to develop their career. And it's no accident that probably Mary Fowler is undoubtedly one of the best young female players in the world, has chosen City to develop her career. So I think we will get those players in.
I think I would point people towards the Nils Nilsson interview last week as well about things like that. He said what Paul's just said about the facilities and the best players and all that wanting to come. Yeah, long term, this club needs to be in Europe on a regular basis without a shadow of a doubt, because then you get the best players and we want to be at the top. City are not a club about doing fourth place finishes, right across the club in every level. They want to be challenging for everything. And I think next season, it's imperative that we do challenge. So if, you take the positive that we're not, you want to take a positive out of it, that we're not in Europe, it refines the targets. The targets are all the three domestic competitions, and we should go for it in that. And I think, this is what Nilsson was talking about in his interview the other day. If you watch that back, keeping the world-class players we've got at the club was imperative. Selling them the club to stay on and then with some clever recruitment over the summer, which I'm sure we'll see. There might be the odd player that leaves or something, but the players that come in, I'm sure we'll see a little bit of recruitment and players, to fit certain roles within the squad. And then we've got an actual defined targets for next season are to challenge for the title, top three and title, and to go for it in the domestic cups. So, it needs to be done. Paul's spot on in that this season was always going to be transitional. I think we all knew that. We lost so many players. And if you look over the last few years, I think Chelsea had a season like this where they finished well behind, and Arsenal did. The biggest difference is this season is that now got a top four, because United have come into it as well. So in past years, it's still been when the top three, one of them had the off season, he's tended to still finish third, had that safety net, and still get in Europe. But now there's four, and as you rightly say, teams like Villa are looking like they're going to push on. I think Liverpool and Everton are certainly better than they were as well. So the WSL is getting better, and it's very important to focus on it next season, because that's our targets. So those are the positives I try and take from that. Yeah. We want to be in Europe, and hopefully we will be again.
He's mentioned about where do you feel are the areas that we need to strengthen out on the pitch. I mean, he's mentioned about 2 fullbacks and at least 2 midfielders, but we've already said that we maybe need to look at another striker to either support Bunny or to just allow for any sort of injury. It is about strengthening, definitely, but no any specific area at the moment for me. I mean, I know on the back line there is an issue just because we've not been able to be consistent because of injury, because of players that haven't been available to us. So it'd be interesting to see, come the summer, what that might look like, Charlotte.
Yeah, and then just something on about, attracting players as well. Like Paul said before, this is the happiest team we've seen, and players do talk. If they were thinking about coming to the club, you can just see the comments on Instagram from Chiara's post. Every player sent an encouraging message to her. Like, it just seems like a really happy, connected squad. And along with the facilities and Manchester City as a club, who wouldn't want to come to the club? But yeah, really excited for the signings this season. Last season we made some amazing signings during the summer, but they'd never played in the WSL. And then to be thrown in first game of the season against Aston Villa, players who'd, apart from Rachel Daly, had all played in the WSL. So really excited to see. Hopefully with Gareth staying, less changes between now and September, and we really have a pre-season and ready to go for the WSL in October, I think it is when it begins. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
I'm quite happy to look at it from the stance of the fact that we've got players, good players, and I think it's about retaining those players that are, coming towards the end of the contracts, that will commit to the club, that can see that there is ambition, and belief that we can, with this squad, bar a few, new players coming in, actually start achieving in Europe, winning the league, domestically, becoming top of the game again. I think for me, it's quite telling when Niels has come in, he spoke about the ambition of the club, and we're now sort of starting to see, obviously, those conversations being had. We spoke about Gareth, and obviously it's been announced earlier this week, Tom Gary, that there are conversations with the club about an extension, a year extension. Now, the year extension is the bit that's important for me, because it may reflect that there are, within his contract, targets that he will need to achieve, if we get Europe, those sort of conversations, and then they'll review it. I know a lot of big questions have been asked about Gareth Taylor and is he the right man for the job? Once again, I'm happy to stick with him. I really, really am happy to stick with him, so long as next season we start to see those ambitions start to come to fruition.
I personally, I've said this before, on balance, and I fully appreciate there's a debate within the club, within the fan base, about Gareth Taylor. But on balance, when you consider what he had to deal with last season, that injury crisis that would have crippled us, Georgia Stanway playing at right back, Jill Scott playing at centre half, Georgia Stanway with a goalkeeper's jersey, prepared to playing goals. She's 5'0". We got through that crisis and we had a reasonably good season. This season, he's lost 6 world-class players, had to rebuild that team. He's playing an attractive City style of football, playing out from the back, playing through the midfield into attack. I think on balance, he deserves at least another season where he can have a clear run in without all the nonsense about the Euros and all of the chaos that caused us. A proper pre-season, bringing in some new players with a director of football. Let's see what he's made of. If at the end of the season or through the season it's not happening, then City will make that decision and we'll make the call. But there's too many people in the fan base moaning about Gareth Taylor. Well, look at what's happening on the field. Are you unhappy with the way the team are playing? Do you find the style of football that they're playing unattractive? Because I don't. I watch both the men and the women's, and I like watching both our teams because they play exciting, attractive, considered football. So we haven't perhaps kicked on, but let's be clear about this. Until we got beat by Arsenal, we were still in the title chase. The margins in our league now are so tight that you lose 1 or 2 games in our league through the season, let alone towards the end of the season, and you can be out the title race. And as Dave says, it used to be the top 3 would be the top 3, whatever happened. Now we've got a top 4. We're now going to have a top 5 with Villa because they're going to kick on next season. But on balance, and I do appreciate there's a discussion about this, on balance, he deserves 1 more season to see what he can do. If at the end of the season we've won the league or won a cup and we feel we've done well, then they'll extend. If at the end of it he hasn't hit those KPIs in his contract, then it'll be all change. And that's football.
I think that's true. I think I'd echo that as well. Exactly what Paul's just said. I think it's fine margins. That's correct in the WSL. And if the club had looked at this season and not made slight changes to rectify those fine margins rather than a massive overhaul, and they'll be a little bit more worried. But the fact that we have made this change by bringing in this director of football, it's a considered approach by the club to just make the fine margin changes, maybe that will be the difference between this season and a really successful season. This season's been more transition, so you've got a lot more settled team next season. We add to it with the input of someone like Nils Nilsson and Karen Bardsley as well, who's been talked about coming onto the staff with him and things like that. I think Paul's spot on. I think he does deserve next season. We don't, the massive upheaval that will come with changing the backroom staff and the manager. Then you'd have to say, well, next season would be transitional as well then. And the fan base would have to wait another season for that to maybe bear fruit. Whereas fine margin changes and bringing in this director of football, I think this is a shout. But yes, there are targets that this club needs to hit. No matter who the manager is, Manchester City need to be challenging. Yeah. And that is whoever the manager is. So I would echo that as well. So yeah, I'm happy with the way that the club have addressed it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, you've just kind of said it yourself. I mean, without football, life would be boring. Asked on Twitter, should Taylor be sat now before he does too much damage? Given the teams in the WSL are improving each season, where do you see City realistically finishing next season? And I legitimately don't believe at this point, at this time, I can't see any scenario where sacking the manager at this point would be beneficial to Man City whatsoever. And I genuinely believe we can be in that title race next season. Charlotte, what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Like, less changes between now and September, the better. I'm 100%, but like, believe in Gareth one more year. Hopefully no injuries. Go into the season, and really challenging to win the league. That's what I want as a fan, is to really be challenging for the league.
There's another. Dave sort of alluded to it, and I think he's right. When you bring a new manager in, and not only does a new manager bring his own new players in, or her own new players in, and it would be good to have a female manager at the club at some point. But also they look at the existing squad and say, well, I don't fancy that player, I don't fancy that player, I don't like that player. And players that are playing in that team suddenly fall out of favour. Changing the manager can be a positive, but it can also be a real negative. I think on balance between try to keep that continuity, get through this transitional season, work with a new structure, bring, people, we brought Gorta in to help Bunny Shaw. There's a lot of clever thinking going on around the team at the moment. So let's not unsettle it at this stage. Let's give Gareth that opportunity one more year to get to that point. We would expect to be top 3 next season. That's a reasonable expectation. But it's going to be tough because there will be a top 5 now. But I think we can do it. I think we've got the players to do it. Don't forget, we've had 2 world-class centre-halves injured over the last few weeks. That would have made a big difference to us. So we've got to start thinking about, what do we want from the club? Do we want continuity or do we want chaos? And at the moment, I think we need continuity just to get us through the next season and see where we are at that point. We're a big club with big resources, and I think there's too many people in the fan base hitting the panic button and blaming just the manager when there's other factors at play. And as Dave rightly says, if the new director of football comes in and helps Gareth with those fine margins, and it is fine margins in the WSL now, which is great for the league, then I think we can reasonably think we'll be back in the top 3 and potentially, and as Charlotte rightly says, our expectation, what we should expect is that we should be winning this league. We're good enough now to win this league with some new players coming in, and I think we should set that as our target. Because let's be honest, we've only won the league once, and we need to win. A club our size needs to win it more often. And that's an absolute given. We need to start winning this league because we've underperformed in the league. We've been great in the cups, but we just need to be better in the league.
The belief within the fan base is that we can do it, but also it does come from the club as well. We start the season with the belief that we can go all the way, and I suppose without Champions League this season, without an intense schedule, which has contributed to so many other clubs in injury, in managing players' performances and minutes. Dave, it allows us to really concentrate on everything domestically.
Yeah, because the last couple of seasons it's put us on a bit of a downer right at the start of the season, getting some, let's face it, some unlucky, difficult draws in Europe. Playing top sides. I mean, to play with Real Madrid in a qualifier in their own ground, that was unlucky to start with. And football's all about opinions, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. Of course they are, and I'm not saying that my opinion is better than anyone else's. My opinion's right and theirs is wrong. It's not. It's football. It's what it is. But I honestly believe, having gone through this season of transition, to then do another season of transition with a whole new setup would be even more frustrating for the fans. We want to see some progress. And I think the club have taken steps to make this next step, with the appointment of Nils Nilsson. I think so. Let's see how that pans out. if certain targets, as I said before, if certain targets are not hit, we don't challenge and we don't see improvement, then people, managers of Manchester City, no matter which team it is, are under pressure to perform. Right away up to Pep at the top of the men's game if he doesn't perform. But transitional season, even Pep didn't win anything in his first season in charge. Because it happens, you have to build your own squad and turn players into your way of thinking and play your way. And I think one more season under this with the changes that have been made, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good place to finish, to be fair. Let's go around and get a cheeky prediction ahead of Saturday's game. Last game of the season. Looking forward to being back at the Academy Stadium. Everton, Paul, what are you thinking?
Well, I said it earlier on, and I'm gonna stick to it. I'm gonna go 3-1. I think it'll be a tough game, but I think we'll edge it 3-1.
Yeah, Charlotte.
Yeah, I was thinking 3-2. I think there's going to be a lot of goals. I really do. After seeing Everton's form, and they really do have a good goalkeeper. Even though I'm saying three goals against them, yeah, I'm saying 3-2. I think there'll be a lot of goals on Saturday.
Dave.
I'm going big, Emma. We'll go out on a high, 4-0.
And a Bunny Shaw hat trick.
Yeah, because how many goals does she need for the Golden Boot race? Is that on?
Daly scored again, didn't she, at weekend? So what's she on now, Daly?
I think she's 3 behind.
Yeah, it was a hat trick. So
3 behind Daly. So I think she needs. If she gets 4, she'll outright win it.
I'll go for that 4-0, and Bunny scores the lot.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Would love to see it. Do you know what? She's been fantastic this season. I would love to see her get that golden boot, to be fair, but I do think it's going to be a little bit more of a tougher test. I was going to go for a 2-1.
Well, we've all gone for a win at least, then, haven't we?
Yeah, I definitely think the response will be there. They'll want to go out and they'll want to get the win, and I have every confidence that we can go and do that at home, especially in front of a good crowd on Saturday.
Yeah, it should be good. I'll just throw in as well that on Saturday we're having a little get together with some of the Everton fans and some of our, some City fans going for a drink at Mary D's after the game. So anyone fancies coming along, come along and say hi.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining me. It's been great to obviously have Charlotte back on the podcast as well. Hopefully we'll do, and then we'll definitely do another podcast, and we'll hopefully get a few more people on, as well as a bit of an end of season review as well. So yeah, thank you everyone, and we'll see you soon. I'll see you at the game on Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah, Emma.
And that's it for this week's episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks to Dave, Charlotte and to Paul for joining me. Really looking forward to next week's episode, where we will be doing our end of season review. So if you have a question or anything you'd like us to discuss, drop us a message on our socials at MCW Fancast. And if you're heading to the game on Saturday, we'll see you there. Have a great week, everyone.